Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we move on to day 3 of Cheltenham, and we start off with the Mares Novice Hurdle, and our selection here is a massive drifter. Maureen, they can't give her away at the moment. She is out to a whopping 9-1. The hood's on, that's got to be a concern. And Patrick's booked to ride rather than Paul. Paul's jumped on Aurora Vega. To be honest, I still like Maureen. I still think she's going to be class. Maybe she's not quite ready at this stage of her career to be winning this sort of race. And I don't really want to get involved in this race again. I don't want to be backing something else. I think Maureen will turn out to be the best of these. But yeah, at this stage, maybe we'll just leave the rest of it alone and not get involved. There's so many potentials in this race. I quite like Just a Rose, to be honest, and yet Harry's not riding that. Yeah, I can't really find another one then on the back of Maureen drifting. Maybe she's not ready, but let's hope that tomorrow she's really well supported again and, you know, runs a decent race. But yeah, this is a concern for sure for Maureen, and I don't want to get involved any further in this race. Moving on to the 2 o'clock, we have a selection in this race in Nürburgring, who looks to have been laid out for this race. Really like that horse. Yeah, only a 5-year-old, going over fences, 4th in the Triumph 12 months ago, went on to win a Galway Hurdle in August. The campaigning this year has been interesting, running in novice events, grade 2 events, beginner chases. That came off the back of finishing 4th in Cesarewitch. I think he's going to run a really nice race, and he is could be very well handicapped still, is Nürburgring. I do want to throw another one into this, and I did not think I would be backing this horse for this race, but I think the form is actually better than what it looks. And that's the very expensive Caldwell Potter. You can currently get at 11-1. Caldwell Potter here for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. Now, went a favourite last time out in a Grade 2 at Windsor, beaten by Gidley Park. Now, I don't think Gidley Park is a bad horse at all. I think Gidley Park is actually quite a progressive horse. That only went off 6-1 last year for the Albert Bartlett at the Cheltenham Festival. Then, granted, pulled up in a beginner's chase at Kempton when it all went wrong, and then bounced back at Windsor, probably showing his form. But if we go back to like January 2024, he was a Grade 2 winner, beating Lucky Place. Now that's good form. He even beat the Jukebox Man in a maiden National Hunt flat race comfortably back in at Chepstow in 2023. So I actually think Gidley Park is a graded horse. Just needs to, you know, end up in a graded race at the Cheltenham Festival. Couldn't do that because he's got injured. So maybe he was beaten in that race by a graded horse. And then we look at his other run that he got beat this season. He finished 3rd behind Django Bay and Springwell Bay. Now, Django Bay obviously went on to win the Arkle yesterday, coming from At the Clouds to get up on the line. Okay, maybe that's a graded horse. Springwell Bay, who was 2nd, was giving £3 to Caldwell Potter. Tomorrow has to give £8. So Caldwell Potter is £5 better off. Caldwell Potter went off favourite that day, over Django Bay and over Springwell Bay, and probably just did a bit too much at the front, making the running. Drops into a handicap. I think he could be very interesting, to be honest. I think he's been let in quite lightly for a previous graded, a Grade 1 winner, wasn't he, over hurdles? Did he not win at Leopardstown? Yes, he won at Leopardstown for Gordon Elliott in a Grade 1. Just could be very nicely handicapped and has quietly got into this race. Gone a favourite for 3 runs over fences, 11-10 being the biggest price, and yet you're getting 12s here in a handicap. So yeah, I'm adding Caldwell Potter who's available at 11s, not 12s. 12s is available at William Hill, you might be able to get that, but definitely 11-1 is available for Caldwell Potter. I think this is probably one of Paul Nicholls' better chances of the week. That is Caldwell Potter in the Novices Handicap Chase. So we've got Nürburgring and we've got Caldwell Potter for that race. Moving on to the 240, the Pemp Network Final. We're on 2 here. We are on Jericho de Repenay and Zane Knights. And to be fair, I still think they've both got great chances. Jericho de Repenay has the cheek pieces on for the first time. They can use that as an excuse for some improvement. I thought coming into the Cheltenham Festival last year, he was really, really progressive. I thought he was very, very talented. And I thought he would be running in graded events. He went to the Supreme, obviously pulled up in that, and then all of Nicky Henderson's horses pretty much came out. There was only a few that actually took their chance at last year's festival. So you can ignore that run. He then went to Sandown over fences. You ignore that run because he got worked up in the parade ring. They should never have let him run that day. Still went off 8 to 11 despite being worked up in the parade ring. Then went to Newbury for a race over 2 miles and ran a really eye-catching 5th. Never asked for any effort whatsoever. In a good race as well. That came off a mark of 135 over hurdles, and then went to a Potemps qualifier where again I felt he wasn't asked for any effort off 134. They were just getting him qualified for this race. He's one here that could absolutely hack up in this race and show that he is graded potential, graded class. They've just very, very, very carefully looked after him this season after it all went wrong over fences, and they'll probably go back over fences next season. He is only 6. They've got plenty of time with him. Yeah, he's one that I think could be thrown in here. I talked about this in a previous video. I looked at him and Will the Wise, and I was like, Will the Wise was very impressive last time out when we were on in that qualifier, but he's a pound lower than Jericho de Repenay. Is he a pound worse than Jericho de Repenay? No, I think he's significant. I think he's a very good handicapper. I think Jericho de Repenay is a graded horse. If you wanted one at a big price that we are also on, it's Zane Knights down here. He was available at 33s, now being backed a little bit. You can still get 28s about him. What we've got to remember about Zane Knights is he is only 6, so he's still quite lightly raced and quite young and potentially still improving. Has got a course and distance win to his name, winning a handicap, albeit off 119, is now rated 128. So only £9 higher than when winning that handicap at Cheltenham back in April. Did then go to Haydock and win again off 125. So it's only £3 higher than his last winning mark. At the beginning of the season, he came to Cheltenham. He went off 9 to 2, co-favourite with the Wall Park, who ends up running in the Stayers Hurdle, and Gowl Road, who's since gone and won a Grade 2, I think. I'm just double checking on my other screen. Yes, he did. He won a Grade 2, beating Montmiral, and has went on to finish second behind Doyen Quest, second to Long Draw, second to Lucky Place, before then beating Montmiral. Montmiral was due to run in the Stayers Hurdle as well. So that form is all graded company. And Zane Knights did really well to finish 3rd, I felt, that day. Then went to Haydock, disappointed at Haydock on the really soft ground. Back on better going at Cheltenham on the new course, did disappoint that day. Not going to dispute that. That was disappointing. But if you can forgive him that one run, last time out it wasn't a bad effort at Huntingdon, when he was 4th in the qualifier, that got him in this race. If there's one who's like, it was obvious at the beginning of the season, and it's just fallen away a little bit recently, Zane Knights looks a very big price. It went off 5 to 1 co-favourite with the Wall Park. If the Wall Park was running in this, it'd be right down here, nearly head of the market. Zane Knights looks a big price, to be honest, in this race now. Don't want to add anything else to that either. Moving on to the 320. The Ryanair Chase. For me, this is Factor Files to lose. Factor File does have the Cheltenham form, which is in his favour. He also won at Punchestown on his return, over 2 mile 3, beat Spillane's Tower and Galopin des Champs, and Fast or Slow. Now, granted, he beat Stayers over that 2.5 mile trip, but he won over the 2.5 mile trip. The last couple of runs, second to Galopin des Champs. Well, I think Galopin des Champs wins the Gold Cup again. and then third to Galopin des Champs and Grange Clare West, when Factor File was ridden to try and beat Galopin des Champs. They were trying to work out whether they could end up in the Gold Cup with Factor File as well. They couldn't. Runs in the Ryanair. I know Ile Francais is probably going to go off really fast at the front, isn't he? But even with that in mind, that should set it up for something that does stay a little bit further in Factor File. And yeah, that's who I feel is going to take all of the beating here, to be honest. Factor File. He probably, if the Ryanair wasn't there, he's one of those that would have been running in the Gold Cup. It's just that this race, they don't believe they can beat Galopin des Champs, which I don't believe they can, over 2.5, over 3 mile 2, sorry. So they might as well run here. Ile Francais might blow up, might go too hard, might find this even a bit fast. Protectorate's good. Is he as classy as Factor File? Not in my opinion. He is also 10. So yeah, I'm happy with Factor File, and we're on a slightly better price than what he is now. 4 o'clock, Stayers Hurdle. I mean, I can't take on Tiapu. If you're looking for a horse to put in a potential double, Tiapu I think is exactly that horse. Beaten home by the Lee. Only gets beat by home by the Lee when it's over 2.5 mile. 2.5 mile is home by the Lee's trip, I feel. The 3 mile trip though, I think is spot on for Tiapu. And now looking back, Tiapu's second to Lossiemouth was clearly a very good effort over 2.5. Once 3 mile, came to Cheltenham last year, beat Flooring Porter, who'd won the Stayers Hurdle twice, comfortably beaten home by the Lee. Tiapu went off 5 to 4. Home by the Lee went off 16s. They're in a similar position this year in terms of what they've shown, and yet Tiapu is 6 to 4. Same sort of price as last year. Home by the Lee is shorter price. Well, he comfortably beat him last year. Can't see any reason why he won't comfortably beat him again. The rest of them are handicappers. Good handicappers, top class handicappers. Not good enough to win this race in my opinion. Bob Ollinger could end up being a pacemaker even for Tiapu. They might go forward on Bob Ollinger, who does not stay with the 3 mile in my opinion. We move on to the... What race do we move on to? The 4:40. And I've got 2 here, but I do want to add a third one at a decent-ish price, who could be interesting. So the first one we will go over again. Ginny's Destiny. This is definitely the right race. With Krabilly not in the race, this looks a prime opportunity for Ginny's Destiny. Krabilly should have been running here. At the beginning of the season, he went off 3 to 1 favourite for a Paddy Power Gold Cup off 155. Gets to run here off 149 because it hasn't quite gone to plan this season. Fell in the water on his first run. Probably still feeling the effects of the jab, the flu jab on his last run. His middle run, when he was behind Jello and Protectorate, that's graded for. They're both in the Ryanair. Ginny's Destiny is not in the Ryanair. He's in the handicap. His second last year behind Grey Dawning would have again put him in the Ryanair. Gets to run in the handicap. I think he could be a very well handicapped, to be honest here. Just needs to bounce back to last year's form. Has had plenty of time to get over that flu jab now. And yeah, if he puts his best foot forward, I think he will run a huge race, to be honest. Second horse we do like is Fugitive at 16s. Is now down to a mark that he can certainly go close off. He's running here off 148. 148 is £3 lower than when he beat Il Rodotto in a December Gold Cup in 2023. Went up to 157, ended up running in a Grade 1, the Clarence House. Last year was running in the Ryanair. He's not a Ryanair horse. This season, turned up in the Paddy Power, finished 5th off 152. Then finished 3rd in the December Gold Cup off 150. And then they looked after his handicap mark by running him in the Denman Chase last time out when he was well beaten. Off this 148, he's slowly dropping down to a mark. He's consistent anyway. 5th in November, 3rd in December. He's always going to be there or thereabouts. And he's back down to that sub 150 mark, which puts him in with a great chance here. He did run in this race in 2023, where he was 2 lengths behind Seddon, beaten off a mark of 149. He's now 148. I think he has a great chance. The final one that I do want to talk about is now getting supported and is very, very interesting, to be honest. If you can get 25s, I would take the 25s about him, because he could be far too classy for these. That's Conflated. I have said for a long time that Conflated wants 2.5 mile, and Gordon Elliott has been consistent with him, running him over the wrong trip in my opinion. He drops him back to this 2.5 mile trip and into a handicap. I think that's all key. His last runs, grade 1 over 3, grade 1 over 3, cross country over 3.5, don't know what he's doing in that, running off 1.66, only went off 9-2 that day, is down to 1.54. Before that, a grade 2 over 3 mile, a grade 3 over 3 mile, you get the idea. Grade 1, the last time he ran over 2.5, even in a grade 1, he got beat a length and a quarter by John Bon and beat Protectorate at Aintree. That would be quality form. Far too good for the rivals here, in my opinion. If we go back a bit further, he finished 3rd in the Ryanair behind Protectorate and Envoy LN. 2 very good 2.5 milers. You know, grade 1 2.5 milers. The last time he actually ran in a handicap was way back in December 2021. It was over 2.5 mile. He was running off 1.45 that day, so he's still a bit higher. Comfortably winning a Fox Rocks Handicap Chase. If he was 9, I'd be all over Conflated, thinking he's absolutely thrown in here. With Mr. James taking that 7 off, he's effectively running off a mark of 150. It's just whether, does he quite have that ability still? If he does, I can see him running an absolute whopping race here, and 25s is a massive price, to be honest. Yeah, I think he is very, very interesting for this race. If you can still get 22s, if by the time this video comes out to you free members, I still think that's a good price. Would not surprise me if he runs a massive race here over this correct trip of 2.5 mile. And yeah, it's a handicap. Gotta, you know, even if you like Ginny's Destiny, who's right down here, on the basis that last year finished 2nd in the 2.5 novice, ends up in a handicap. Well, last year this horse was finishing 3rd in the 2.5 Ryanair. You know, the grade 1 open, non-novice grade 1, only beaten 6 lengths off a mark of 1.66. Now down to 1.57. Mr. James takes 7 off. He's effectively running off 150. He's absolutely thrown in. I would have him and Ginny's Destiny. They're the same sort of horse, really, and yet you're getting a much bigger price about Conflated. And finally, the last race we will look at is the Kimu, where we have 2. I like both of them. I think both have chances. I don't want to add anything else to them. The first one is Gitmaker, who... Is Gitmaker just being backed now? No. The first one is Gitmaker. We're on a slightly bigger price than 14s. Finished 2nd in this race last year, behind... I Know the Way You're Thinking. I mean, I Know the Way You're Thinking is 8-1 for the Gold Cup. Gitmaker could be absolutely thrown in here. That was off 132, gets back off 133, beaten by the subsequent Gold Cup challenger. I mean, surely has a massive chance. The second horse that we like actually finished 4th in this race last year, and is a big price, to be honest. Right down at the bottom here at 66-1, Where It All Began finished 6th in this race last year off a mark of 135. Gets to run this year off 132. Mr. Scanlon takes 5 off, so is effectively running off 127. £8 lower mark, finished 4th last year, went off 8-1. 66s this year. That could be one of the best laid out plans you will see if that goes and wins tomorrow, or starts getting really well supported. Could end up going significantly shorter than that price. Yes, hasn't shown anything this season. Could this have been a real long-term ridiculous plan for Where It All Began? So they are my 2 for the final race, and they are the only 2 I'm going to stick with. Gitmaker, who was 2nd in this race last year, Where It All Began, who was 4th. Both have reasons why they could go very close this year.